Welcome to the Rock House Property Show, your number one choice for tips, advice, and practical know-how when looking to extend your home or develop property generally. Knowledge is power. And now, your host, Chartered Building Surveyor and the founder of Rock House, Andrew Sheely.
Happy New Year. Merry Christmas, depending on when you're listening to this. We are sitting in that little period of time after Christmas and before New Year, and I have the absolute pleasure of having an amazing guest today. For a little bit of excitement for anyone watching or listening to this podcast, I have a world-renowned international speaker.
Yes.
A business coach,
yes,
an accountability person and or mentor to people, to very successful people, with a wealth of experience in all of those things. The wonderful Phil Berg.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me.
Round of applause.
I'm pretty impressed with that round of applause.
There you go.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. And to frame this up today, because we're on the Rock House Property Show. My name's Andrew Sheely, just in case anyone doesn't know. We're on the Rock House Property Show, and usually we're talking about all things property when you want to develop, extending your home, drawings, the processes, red tape, party wall, etc. But I thought, wouldn't it be good for all of our listeners to one, meet you, because it's always a pleasure. Whoever meets you is always a pleasure.
Thank you.
You can tell I love Phil Berg very much. And second is, why don't we do a little bit of a goal-setting clinic? Because anyone and everyone in whatever field or walk of life you're doing, you get to January and the old, the bells start tolling for you thinking, wow, I want to set some goals for the next year. And everyone's going to benefit regardless of whether this is a property podcast or not. So for my benefit, I'm very privileged to be here. And for the benefit of everyone listening, we're going to go through goal setting, the ins and outs of it, what to do, how to do it, what not to do, how to overcome issues and challenges, and obviously draw on your wealth of experience as well because of your experience and expertise. I wouldn't have said that. You know, apart from the grey hair, I definitely would think you could still be 30.
Oh, flattery.
You're doing all right.
I'm sure everyone has to understand, lower their expectations, but yeah, great. Thanks a lot.
Okay, so we've got a little bit of an agenda we're going to run through, but before we start, Phil, did you want to quickly just give everyone a short CV of yourself, a minute, just who you are, what you've done, so people can understand more than and better than what I introduced, perhaps?
I appreciate that. First of all, as you said at the beginning, Happy New Year,
Happy
Christmas to everyone that's listening. To introduce myself to everybody, my name is Phil Berg. Ultimately, I've been in retail and sales all of my life. I started selling carpets, which was my main business for 32 years, on a market stall on a Sunday, wearing a balaclava. You may not even know what a balaclava is.
I do know what a balaclava is from back in my bank robbing days.
Oh, exactly that.
Yes.
I would literally stand there with a balaclava on and still take deposits, people thinking I'm trusting them to turn up 2 weeks later. So I've been in retail all my life. I sold my flooring business 2007, and ultimately I've been involved heavily in networking with an organisation called BNI, heavily in networking, and that's allowed me to flourish a speaking career and really allowed me to, if you like, evolve into what I realise now has been one of my passions, and that's making a difference to people. And as you said, I thought my hair was blonde, so I'm very upset you called it white. But the fact is, I'm at the stage of life now where the things that I would have done if I had my life again, or would do if I had my life again, I'm now in a position to be able to offer and share experience on people that, if you like, might make more benefits of things than I did when I was younger, because I didn't know. So I love the opportunity to be able to give back. So thank you for having me with you on your podcast. And what's a pleasure for me is, like, I've known you for a long time now, so it's like two good mates just having a good chat. So thank you for inviting me.
It's my pleasure. I think the biggest thing for me, Phil, and why I admire you so much, is because you sincerely want to make a difference.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's the point, because although it is a business for you, the genesis behind it was actually you wanted to make a difference, which you've done in people's lives for years and years.
Thank you.
And you just realised that you want to focus your experience and what you can bring to the table, your skill set, more in a more focused way to people. So rather than talking to large groups of people, which you still do, and you still speak on stage regularly, don't you?
Yes. Yeah, I'm very privileged. I have international bookings for the next 17, 18 months now.
So amazing.
Well, I love doing that. Again, you can make a difference to the mass, but I do like working with people like yourself, if you like, that just, you can see are developing, ambitious, want things. And it's not about just the money, it's about, what I love about you actually, it's living your life. It's living your life. And none of us know, I know this is not a subject we're talking about with goal setting, but it kind of is related to it. You know, none of us know when it's ended. But what we do know is where we are now. And I've always loved the fact that you're looking at how can I live my life to the full whilst having to live my life and pay for it. So it's a journey I can share.
That's such a good phrase you said there. How can I live my life to the full whilst having to go on the journey of paying for it?
Yeah.
It's like just very honest, isn't it?
Well, it's reality. I mean, I actually have two lines that I use when people say to me, so what do you do? A longer, slightly long version, but it's two long sentences. Ultimately, I love helping people make the best of their life and enjoying life as best as possible whilst living in the stress and the chaos of it. And I help them to ultimately create a future that allows them to put the two words, no regrets, on the tombstone.
Nice.
It's what it's about. We're here once.
Sounds
Very simple, sounds very simplistic, but that is a reality. We can get tied up with having to make money to live, which we've got to. But trouble is, a lot of people, when we talk about the goals, just tend to have that goal to earn more than their outgoings. Instead of, but what does the next 1 year, 2 years, 3 years look like? What can I do if nothing goes wrong? That's the big thing. If nothing changes outside of my control, then therefore what I can control is my plan. So if I have a plan day one and no outside circumstances change that plan, then I'll get there. So it's just making that difference to people that want it, because we can have as good a life as possible in the stress and the chaos of it.
Yeah. Wonderful. Okay. So we've, as I said, we've got some agenda items we're going to run through just so we stay on track, because Phil and I love to have a little chinwag.
We do.
At the best of times and the worst of times. So we've covered introducing your good self. Everyone knows who I am anyway. So the first question I'm going to start with, it's okay, is how do you personally approach setting goals when you do? Let's assume for the new year. You know, when do you do it? Where do you do it? How do you do it? How can you cultivate good space to do it and get the best outcome?
Yeah. Well, I think if we talk about the fact that should people set goals, and the reality is, I think everyone knows the answer would be yes. You know, there can't be anybody respectfully that would think, no, goals are things that just happen. But I kind of figure it's like health, isn't it? You know, we know that if we take a 1 hour break at lunchtime, for example, and just literally put everything to do with work down and just go out and take a walk, just get that breathing space, we know in theory that will make the afternoon more efficient. Or, you know, for some people like us, we love our sport, we love our health, we love our fitness, okay? The reality of that is, you know, trying to take some time out during the day to make space for fitness feels guilty sometimes, because we've got so much work to do, and yet we'll end up doing more work if we did it. But we know that, but we don't do it sometimes. It's the same with goal setting. Goal setting's crucial. I think it's a necessity. If you don't have a goal, you can't score. If you don't have a goal, then where are you? What are you doing? And if your only goal is to get through this week to pay this week's bills, or get through this year to pay this year's bills, it's not really a goal, it's survival. And I do understand all that, but sometimes that's a mindset. And I would encourage anybody to work with somebody else on their goals. If you have a partner at home, work with them to make sure your goals are aligned. Very interesting. You know, I've been with my lovely Jackie since we were 14 years old. I'm 60 now. We have to realign. I don't want to wake up one day and think, oh, we're doing really well, and find out that Jackie wanted another direction, and all of a sudden we're apart. Yeah. So I think it's really, really important that you align your goals with those that are in your goals.
And you should do that first, perhaps. I mean, if you have a significant other, I mean, I suppose what you should do is sit down and work on your own goals, and then present those goals to your partner to make sure the alignment is there. Yeah. And then, because obviously all you're going to do is garner the support of your partner, which is we all need, or someone, whoever that significant person is, in the hard times. You know, when you're feeling super low, because chasing goals is a bit like an adventure, highs and lows. You know what I mean? Yeah. So in the low times, you want to have someone you can go, oh, you know, I was working on that thing. Yeah. And they'll go, it's okay, you're doing really well, and that can be the thing that puts you back on the horse sometimes, can't it?
Well, absolutely. I mean,
you're going to take my jumper off, by the way.
Sure.
In case you wonder what I'm doing.
No, I mean, look, relationships should be to do with goals anyway, and I know we'll be talking about that a bit later in the podcast.
Yes.
I'd also advise you to flatten your hair now, because
you.
your jumper's like made it. I'm just jealous, actually.
All those in video.
Yeah, I'm just jealous. See,
Perfect.
if I took my jumper off, it wouldn't make a difference to me. None of my hair would move. so let's get back.
It's that low profile haircut.
Well, I think it's goal setting, and I think, should I get some more hair or should I not? And I think we'll leave that off the goal
You've got
setting.
the goal. Well done. You've got your goal.
Yeah, exactly. I've achieved it. So ultimately, I do think with a partner at home, or someone that's going to be involved in your life, I do believe that you should set your goals separately and then meet up to align. And I think that's really important. Something Jackie and I do, which your listeners might find interesting.
Jackie, your wife.
Jackie's my wife,
Yes.
yes. It's good if I do my goals with my wife, yes. And some people will think this is ridiculous, but we do it. Every 5-6 years, we literally hire a room in a hotel. Goal setting, in my opinion, should be done away from your normal environment. Okay, because in your normal environment, there's too many distractions. It's easy to just take a quick look at an email, your phone buzzes, etc. In my opinion, and please note for all of our listeners, everything I share today is my own experience and my own opinions. Feel free to agree to disagree, because I'm comfortable with that. But I won't be sharing anything that hasn't worked for me in my life. Okay. Every 5-6 years on our relationship goals, we literally hire a room in a hotel as if it's a business meeting. And when I first said this to Jackie...
Oh, like a conference room.
Yeah, it would be a meeting room.
Yeah.
It'd literally be a meeting room. And it's a meeting room for 2 people. And we put flip charts up. And I literally will be saying to Jackie, okay, what does the next 5 years look like to you? It's not so much where we are now. We look at where we are compared to where we wanted to be. But it's, what does 5-6 years' time look like to you? Now, I'll be talking later in the goal setting about a life plan for 2 to 3 years. But here is our relationship plan. 5 to 6 years' time, what does it look like to you? And it's interesting that Jackie would, for example, last time we did this, said, well, I'd like to be in a different house. And I was quite upset. I thought, what, on your own? Or so basically, she'd like to be in a different house. And I'm like, we have a nice house.
Yeah.
It's not a huge house. It's a nice house, thanks. And probably a typical fella. It's like, it's warm, we sleep well, the rooms are fine.
Yeah, why do we need to move?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
But it's important to Jackie. We've been in our house a long time. It's important to Jackie that she would like to be in another house. So we started talking about that, and very much why. And we will talk about the why later, because everything should relate to whatever you want, why do you want it? Why? Because quite often what you think you want, you don't actually want. So it's like, well, why do you want to move? And how important is that? Because there's a difference between important and urgent. So how important is it? How urgent is it? So it's not urgent, but it is important to Jackie. And in alignment, we can then turn around and make an agreement. Okay, I'm quite comfortable to work towards that. Or do you want to change that goal now? So I think your original question was when and where.
Yeah. When, where, how.
Okay, for me, the when begins in usually September, October. I say begins and completes by the end of October, certainly the latest early November. People tend to, and I don't know there's a right or a wrong, I don't. Most people that set goals tend to set their goals on a calendar year, January the 1st to 31st of December. The reality of that is if you start it in January, by the time you've probably completed it properly and put things in place, because I don't mean having a day where you've just got your plans, you think, okay, but putting dates in the diary, actions, reviews, etc., which we'll talk about shortly, that can take a couple of weeks, 3 weeks. So if you start in January, in my opinion, you've potentially lost 1/12 of your plan.
Well, you've also got the crazy of the new year starting as well, which means that within the chaos of trying to then survive and live and do what you do, you're also trying to set mental time aside to do the goal setting. And that little spell before the Christmas break, if people hopefully take a break at Christmas and or New Year, there's plenty of bank holidays. You have opportunities to be quiet, to take yourself away, to create mental space, to get into that flow state where you can actually say, well, why do I want to live where I live or do what I do or whatever it might suit you?
Yeah, I do mine early, certainly end of October, beginning of November, as I said, purely and simply because I personally, I want to try and go, if possible, into a Christmas break and take the break. You know, how is it, we look at professional footballers, okay? And professional footballers, as we know, have rest time. But yet we are professional business people. And a lot of people don't think the same thing. We think of a professional footballer as physically running. So they need to rest their body. And I often say, isn't our brain our body? Isn't the way we think part of our body? I mean, sometimes I think as professional business people, and when I say professional business people, I'm talking about anything, trades, professions, but we are business people. We're working full time on trying to earn a living. Isn't that the same as a professional footballer, but in a different way?
Of course it is.
Well, when do we take that break? When do we take that breather? When do we recharge batteries? And I think that's something very, very important. And I'm sure everybody listening will think, well, that's an idealistic world. Yes, just take time every week to just take a breather. People don't finish because they don't start. If they just entered in their diary 15 minutes a week, 15 minutes, just go for a walk.
Will be a start, wouldn't it, as well?
Exactly.
Because you've got to make it achievable. I think this is a really good point, what you said there, is that a lot of people don't ever start or don't ever think they can, whatever it is in life, going to the gym or whatever it might associate to, because they think, well, I haven't got the time, I'm always busy. And one of the biggest things I learned in life is that you've got to make the time, you've got to create space to move forward.
Yes.
You don't want to look back in 10 years and say, well, I'm just doing what I did just 10 years ago. I'd never changed anything and living a good life. You want to go for great, and then perhaps you'll land somewhere in the middle and it would be amazing, whatever. So, for instance, I've lived a life where, up at 5 a.m, getting a bit extra work done just to get ahead, working my work day, and then working in the evening till 9 o'clock just to get ahead. And that was fine. And then you got to the point where I burnt out somewhat. Yeah. And I said to myself, I don't want to live like this. I don't want to live doing, and don't get me wrong, I think there was a time in the last decade or so when it was that kind of working hard was what it was all about. Working hard, that's how you could hang your hat.
Sometimes feel we have to, don't we? Or we're justifying it to somebody, or we're feeling guilty if we don't.
I mean, if you have to, you have to, of course, right? Got to provide, do what you've got to do for your own lifestyle. But I think sometimes we go into a false impression that we think we've got to work hard all the time to please everyone around us in business and so on. Yep. Whereas if you want to get fit, and this is what I did mentally, I said, well, when am I going to do it? I'm working in the morning, I'm working in the evening. When am I going to get fit? And I said, well, I'll just stop working in the morning and I'll do exercise in the morning. And all of a sudden I do exercise, and all of a sudden I'm feeling better, and all of a sudden I've got more energy, and all of a sudden I'm kind of in this little energetic pocket, of going, well, what's next? And you realise one of the big lessons I learned was there's always work. There's always distractions. It's never ending. 24 hours a day. If you want to work, you can. Yes. So with that mindset of that, it's always going to be there. Why not take and make the space to create something? And as you said quite rightly, diarise the space in advance.
I think that's the thing, so diarising.
When it comes up and there's those things saying, oh, can you make this? You could be like, no, actually, because I've got my exercise time on a Wednesday morning at 9 o'clock. That's when I go for my hour run or whatever you want to do. So I think that's a really important part of what you've said there. Make the time and the space to do the goal setting, to do the planning, so that you can do it unapologetically and not feel like, well, I should have been working. I should have been installing a plumber, a boiler. I should have been decorating, or whatever the job is. If you make the space, you can go into it knowing that you're doing something to better yourself, and then you remove the guilt of saying I could be doing something else that could be earning money or making a client happy or whatever. And I think it's
important. I mean, I always caveat things that you've just brilliantly said and things that I'm about to say. I always caveat to our listeners with the view of, I'm sure many of our listeners could be thinking, well, that's so simplistic. Oh, that's so ideal, but my world isn't like that. And I do understand. But I always have a joke. They're called Bergisms. Bergisms are one-liners that have got a kind of a life of their own. A book will be out on them, actually. But one of them that reminds me of is, if we have a conversation and we're the only person in the conversation, we will always end up with the answer we want. We'll always justify our outcome. So if you're on your own, ladies and gentlemen, and you're thinking to yourselves, I just don't have time, as the famous Henry Ford said, whether you can or whether you think you can't, you'll be correct. So if you're saying to yourself, I don't have the time, you'll be correct. The reality is, I believe, it starts with desire. And I have to be very, very careful with my kind of next story, if you like. Let's say someone very, very, very close to me not as in you, but very, very close to me in my life,
Yes.
okay, would like to lose some weight. Okay? And
Are you talking about yourself in a third, in a
No,
metaphysical way?
No,
Phil?
hang on a minute. I mean, this is being videoed as well, yeah?
Yeah.
So, our audience, you'll see how good looking I am. You'll see how fit I am. So, I'm actually not in this instance,
I
but
know,
thank you
playing.
for the second insult
know,
of the
it's okay.
podcast.
And I know you can take it quite.
Harsh. I genuinely, someone very close to me would like to lose some weight. And I'm saying, okay, you need to get up a little bit earlier. I already get up at 6:30. Okay. How desperate are you to lose some weight? I definitely want to. So get up at 5:30. Not that much.
Oh.
My point is, again, I will continue to use the word simplistic ideal, fine. But busy people are always busy. So ladies and gentlemen, whoever's listening here, busy people are always busy. So there'll always be an excuse not to be able to do something. From my own experience, talking about weight, if you like, okay, I've been heavier than no, I'm not worried about weight, but I'm actually bothered about shape, if you like. I appreciate I'm not 20 years old anymore, but reality-wise, I'd got out of shape in the last few years. Used to be a good sports person, still do sports now, but I got out of shape. And every time I would see myself walking past a mirror, it'd be like horrible. But the good part was, just past the mirror was the 2 kilos of food. So that kind of got through the problem of how I looked. But actually, I knew that I wasn't happy. And then I met someone recently who was nearly 70 years old, looks fantastic.
Really?
And I said to
Love
him,
that.
you look amazing.
Mm.
I said, what are you doing? And this isn't a promotion for something, but it might be. And he said, intermittent fasting. I went, right, what's that? He said, I only eat for 8 hours during the day. I said, really? He said, yep, pick any 8 hours you like. And I know, ladies and gentlemen, this isn't a promotion for intermittent fasting, so we're going to move off the subject. But point being, I've wanted to lose weight. But you know what? It hasn't been enough desire because I do love my food. What this guy said to me worked for me. He said, you can eat what you like. Okay. But just eat between an 8-hour period of your choice. Same time each day. Okay. I like that. Because if you said cut out the chocolate biscuits, if you said cut out the other bits, it's like, you know what? Perhaps I just accept that I'm not as fit as I used to be, and etc. But this worked for me. So I do eat what I want. Funny enough, my hunger is not so big now. So I do eat less. And I just eat between 12 p.m. and 8 p.m. Taken off 4.5 kilos
Wow.
in the last 8 to 9 weeks. I feel great about it, and it's working.
Do you know what you're saying here is essentially, because we've covered that question, when to do it, we've covered where.
Where is away? Just to
somewhere
go back to that.
create
When
space.
early is the moral of the story. Don't wait till January, okay? Don't wait till January. Do it early. If you feel like you want to do it, if you have a Christmas break, because many people work between Christmas and New Year, but if you have a Christmas break and you want to do it then, I don't. I need to have a break. I take myself as a professional business person, mentality, I'm getting older, as we all are, we're getting older. The reality is I need to be back on form, ready to be on that pitch, the equivalent of 3rd, 4th of Jan, and I'm ready to go. Ready to go.
Yeah.
So
Don't be dismayed, anyone listening to this who's thinking, oh, do you know what? I haven't started what I want to do yet. I haven't started my goal setting.
if you haven't started, do it tomorrow.
What's the phrase? The best time to start is...
Well, they say the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago.
Yeah,
If you
exactly.
didn't do it, the next best time is now.
Exactly.
So it's all about learning for the future. Doing it later is better than not doing it at all. So summarising that, goal setting is crucial. Try and do it early if you can. And secondly, do it away from your normal environment.
Perfect. And the last thing I wanted to poke in there was how, and part of the how was, I think, when you do your goal setting, from my experience personally, you've always got to try and start top level, write down everything you want to do, let your brain fly wild, blue sky thinking they call it, and then you can refine down from there. But whatever your goal ends up being, that you decide you want to focus on, I think it's important to make sure, going back to your intermittent fasting psychology, you've got to make sure that it is important enough that you put enough pain connected to the thing that you want to solve to help you create enough urgency to do something about it, i.e. get out of bed an hour earlier. And if getting out of bed an hour earlier means you go to bed an hour earlier at the end of the day to afford you time, well, maybe that's just an hour of not watching television. Maybe that will improve your life as well. But if you don't create the urgency mentally about the thing that you want to change, then it will be a lovely goal, but perhaps you'll never battle through the inconvenience of what you need to do to get the goal done.
Yeah, look, if it was that easy, everyone would do it. And as I said, busy people are always busy. Busy people can't wait to be quiet to then achieve their goal. In fact, the busiest people normally achieve the goals because being busy is not a problem. Someone that's never busy, that becomes busy, can't handle it. So actually, don't use busy as an excuse. Use busy as a motivation. I mean, how many of our listeners would sit here and think, I can't wait to be busier? You know, how many would put on the tombstone, you know, I wish I worked harder? You know, we accept we have to work hard, but you should be working hard to not work hard.
Do you know what always sticks with me? And is always one of my mental things I revisit to help me refocus, you might say, is when you hear of people who are doing amazingly well, and congratulations to them. They're earning 20 grand, 30 grand, 40 grand a month. They're earning more than that. They're multi-millionaires, whatever it is. They still have the same 24 hours in the day that you have and that I have. They've just cultivated a life that utilizes those 24 hours in a better way so that they can get the earnings and the business model and everything set up so they can get what they've got. And I think to myself, so that person's a millionaire, 10 millionaire, multi-millionaire, whatever. They've still got the same 24 hours as me. So what are they doing different than I'm doing to get their 24 hours more effective? Why? How are they getting more out of their 24 hours?
They probably started earlier. They probably learnt earlier, and they made their decision earlier. Now, I want to reiterate to everyone on here that this isn't about money.
No, sorry, I just used it as a
I understand, but I always know what's heard. This is not about money, okay? But the reality is money comes into it. We can't do things without money. That's the reality, okay? So my definition of success is happiness. And that sounds all fluffy, doesn't it? But, you know, I would ask our listeners to define their definition of success. In my crowd of friends, I've always been known, and this is a fact, not a boast. In fact, I don't think it's something to boast about. I've always been known as one of the hardest working in our crowd of friends. In my carpet and flooring career of 30 years, I would be in the shop by 7:30 in the morning. We would have the retail outlet hours, finishing 5:30, 6 o'clock of an evening. Then I would book appointments to visit clients' houses to do the measuring up and the quotations and the estimates. Quite often I would be leaving the house at 6:37 in the morning, and I would not be home before 9:30, 10 o'clock of an evening. I did that 4 nights a week because I met my lovely wife, Jackie, when we were 14. I did that 4 nights a week because Wednesday night I saw Jackie. Saturday I worked in the shop, didn't do any appointments in the evening, but again, what was left, saw Jackie. Sunday morning I was in my van, obviously I was driving now, in my van at 4 a.m. because I started my business doing a carpet stall on a Sunday market, Western International in Hayes, Middlesex. So I would leave the home at 4:30 in the morning, unload a van of carpets and rugs and everything. It was strong then. Set the market stall up, be home at 5 o'clock, trying to keep awake because I saw Jackie again. I've worked hard most of my life, but I always said that I wanted to retire as soon as possible. Now again, some of our listeners will say, retire? I'll never retire. My definition of retire is do the parts of the work that I love. Helping you and our audience today, thank you for the privilege. Doing the parts of the work that I love with people that want me at a time that's convenient for both of us at a price I deserve. So it took Jackie, my wife, a while to accept that I have retired. February 2021, we sold our business interests, and totally allows me now to travel the world, making a difference to people, and on Zoom a lot now, with consultancy, mentoring, at the hours of my choice, at the price I deserve. what a life I now lead.
Yeah. And it's all down to your choosing.
That's the word. I've written down two words on this piece of paper in front of me. I've written two words which are crucial to everybody: choice and why. So when we are planning our future, planning our next move, ideally, wouldn't it be brilliant to say, do you know, I work 15 hours a day, but it's my choice, not because I have to. It's my choice. And every time you think of doing something, always think of pushing yourself, saying, why do I want that? Now, for example, you said to me a minute ago, which was interesting, you're setting your goals and blue sky thinking. We often think, when you think of the term setting your goals, it sounds like the beginning, doesn't it? If you do set goals every year, then in theory, you're not setting your goals for the next year. You're actually continuing with your plan from a year ago. And all you're doing is saying, am I still on schedule, or has anything changed my thinking? Again, call it realigning.
Has the landscape changed?
Yeah, call it realigning, okay? But only the very, very first time you set goals, you set goals. The year later, you're not really setting goals. You're actually checking what you wanted a year ago for 2 to 3 year plan. Are you still on schedule for that? Have you changed? I mean, someone you may have met during the last year has changed your thinking, given you different belief. So all of a sudden, the goals that you had a year ago were the correct goals, but through circumstances that are changed out of your control, a year later you think, do you know what? Actually, I've got bigger goals than that, or I've got different goals from that. I think that's perfectly okay, as long as you're continually asking yourself, what's it all about? Don't just live.
Nice, very nice. Next down on our list, we have a choice question. Can you share some tips on how to set effective and achievable goals?
Yeah. Achievable has to be, as the saying goes, achievable. I would start with destination in mind. A lot of people say, what would I like to do this year? And we are now sitting here, I don't know if this podcast is time sensitive, but we're sitting here at the end of a year, okay? With a lot of my clients at the moment, I'm actually saying to them, I want you to do an exercise right now, and I want you to imagine 3 years' time. So we're sitting here at the end of December in a year. I want you to imagine 3 December's time, and I want you to have told me what your year was. Okay? So imagine this was now the year 2000. So I'm going back so many years, so therefore this doesn't become time sensitive. We're at December 2000. I would literally give you an exercise that says 2003 was a fantastic year for myself and my family. And by using the words "and my family," we start to open our mind to true goals. Most of us sit here and say, what are my goals? So by saying 2003 was a fantastic year for myself and my family because, and you then write down what you did. Now, you mustn't put the "how did I do it" in the way. So 2003 was a fantastic year because we went on this particular holiday that the kids have always been asking for. We went to Disneyland.
Lived on the beach for a month.
Exactly that.
And you're writing it in the future, in the present tense, but in the future. So you're
Correct.
saying in 3 years' time, my year will look, I'll be saying, I did this,
yes,
I did this.
You're writing in the past tense. It's an interesting challenge.
Yeah.
You're writing in the past tense, but for the future.
But for a future date.
Correct. So and I like it when it's the end of the third year. So if this was December 2000, you're talking about December the 31st, 2003. You're saying 2003 was a fantastic year because we took the kids to Disneyland, which is what they wanted. Okay? Camilla and myself did the cruise that we've been thinking of or talking about for a long time. And at this moment, when you're designing that year as if you've finished it, this is what we did. And I find it's easier to design what you did than design what you want to do. Because if you design what you want to do, you start putting, how am I going to do it in the way? If you said, we did this, we did this, we did this, then when you finished it, you look down and you go, oh my goodness.
Well, do you know what you've done? What's really powerful about what you've said there is you're creating a subconscious permission to,
I love that.
To get it.
I love that. Well, you see, I find if you create a plan and then think about the destination
and the challenges.
Yeah, well, there's too many. Maybe we can't do that. Maybe we can't do that. If you said, well, that was a great year because we took the kids to Disneyland, which they've always been talking about. We went to Lapland at Christmas because, again, what an age they're at to do Lapland. Camilla and I had that 1 week break to visit the site that we wanted to see. This all sounds beautiful, but in work, we achieved X amount of turnover. And before you just create a figure, why that figure, which we'll come back to, I'm sure. But it's almost you've said, this was a great year because. Then you look back and you will sit there and think, oh my goodness. Okay, well, if that's what 3 years' time looks like, the third year, then for 2 years' time, December 2002, I need to be in this position to be able to have that year. So now all of a sudden you're working backwards thinking, okay, so I've now got a 2-year preparation to begin the year that I'm going to have. Does that make sense?
It's a beautiful thing you've just said there. Really beautiful, because it's artistic, it's romantic. You can be excited about the year you're going to create and have in 3 years' time. And then, like all things in life, you work backwards from the end result. Then you can define and break down to smaller bite-sized chunks the things you need to do to get there. And I think what's perhaps the most powerful thing is that you've created a story and messaging that speaks in the present tense about the successes you're going to have.
How does it feel?
How does it feel? And it's a subconscious permission that you're giving yourself to live in that reality, even if the reality starts in your mind.
It has to.
What life are you living? Where does your life come from? Your life comes from your brain, your mind, your imagination that you then cultivate and bring into reality. That is the strongest thing we might say today. So everything everyone wants to get in life and all the goals you might set and everything, it all comes from the brain. And you've got to protect your brain, and you've got to cultivate positive messaging, and you've got to allow dreams to become reality, because they can.
I think
it's pretty deep.
No, it's not.
We could talk very broadly about all of this, but I really think that whatever you can conceive, you can achieve, which is a real cheesy line, but it's so true. You know, your dreams into reality.
Can I share a secret?
Please.
And probably
dream.
Turn the development dreams into reality. Why not?
Why not?
Look, if we don't have dreams, well, interesting. There's a difference between a dream and a goal. A dream is something that you wish, but you never actually do necessarily. A goal is something that you plan and create, that if nothing changes, you hit it. Okay, they say a goal without a plan and a date is a dream. Okay, so there's a kind of definition. But I'm very comfortable to share this secret, and I don't know if I've actually told anybody. Do you believe in law of attraction?
Massively.
Okay, it's interesting. A lot of our listeners won't, and I don't know if I did. But you will be part of my secret. You won't know it. So for those that don't know, ladies and gentlemen, I was the Assistant National Director for BNI UK and Ireland. Privilege. That's allowed me to learn how to effectively network, and that's part of what I do now. I travel the world teaching people how to effectively network. Whenever I would do a presentation, and you would see at the group that I was privileged to work with you with, we would have a bio, an entry into your presentation. Yep. And on my bio, it said something no one knows about Phil. Phil has a goal to be in a position to choose to retire July the 23rd, 2000 and when am I 60?
21?
Yep, it was 2060, 20, what was it? 21, that's right.
Because I remember.
I was 60 this year, 2022, okay? July the 23rd, 2022, and my joke was when I hit 50, and everyone would laugh because obviously that's when I hit 60. Because isn't that a natural thing for most of us and our listeners? We think we have to retire at a round numbered age, 60, 65, whatever. Why? Why? Let's challenge ourselves. Define retirement, because I can't sit there with a pipe on a chair in a smoking jacket for the rest of my life. My definition is I'll work like this now for the rest of my life, because it's not work. now. Okay, but I've worked very hard to put myself into this position. So here's the secret. Phil Berg would like to be in a position on July the 23rd, 2022, when he hits 60, 50 it was, my joke, okay, to be in a position to choose to retire. The secret I'm going to tell you is I didn't know how I could do it. But I had it out there in public. All of my bio and entries to any presentation I did would say Phil Berg wants to be in a position to retire. I was 56 and 57 at this stage.
You never said that, though. You did say it, but you didn't use the words "wants to be in." You always said
will be in.
Will be in.
Correct. And it's probably because I haven't used it now, because I did it. Haven't used it for 2 years. But all of my entries would have that. And what no one knew, it was actually to give me credibility, where people go, wow. And I'd say, well, you haven't got a date? What I hoped it would do is motivate people to say, why can't I have a date to retire? Just change your definition of retire. I didn't know how to do it. That's the secret. And then all of a sudden, in September, October 2020, and I hope this might be deep, but this is related to goal setting, I truly believe, that every time I turned the television on, another one of my sporting heroes or a celebrity unfortunately passed away. None of them were older than 73, 74, 72, 73, 74. I was 58 and it hit me hard. It was just one too many, and I just went, that's it. I didn't know how I was going to do my future. I didn't necessarily have a plan. I literally walked out of my office, and I would never do anything without Jackie just talking with her. And I said, that's it, I'm done. And I sold my business to move away from what I didn't want to do anymore, rather than move towards what I'm going to do. Yes, we had a sale. Yes, we did well with our sale.
That was an outcome. That was just whatever.
And it wasn't retirement money. It wasn't, that's it, I don't have to work anymore the rest of my life. It certainly gave me an opportunity to develop the next part of my life. But I hope everyone can take a message from this. I've always lived my life living in the moment. You know, we've always had nice things for our income level. We've always gone without other things because choice of good things over things I can't have. We've never had any spare money, but we've never gone without. It's only later in life where I've kind of thought, this isn't a good strategy when you're 60. So I have no problem saying my success to our audience has come in the last 2 to 3 years. But I'm now working at 60 on making sure that I'm living my life, because I don't know when it's going to end. And a definition of living my life, what photos are going on my phone? That's to do with goal setting. What photos in 2023 are going to be put on my phone? Both Jackie and I were 60 in 2022. Jackie's mum was 90 in 2022. And we've got memories on our phone of how we celebrated those, which, you know, we did things that really I'm not going to say we shouldn't have done, but we did it. But we've got the memories on the phone when I look back and think, wow, these were moments. And we've got to earn the money to live, but stop earning the money to survive.
Well, and living, what's living? I mean, ultimately, we all have our environment that we're living in right now, and we're familiar with the house you live in, wherever you're listening to this now, the car you're driving, whatever. Who says you can't sell up, move to Lincolnshire, where you buy a 4-bed house for 150 grand or whatever it is, and wherever
Absolutely.
that is, and you know, spend the rest of your days being a farmer of 10 sheep and doing this and that and whatever. Who says?
No regrets. No regrets on the tombstone. That's the important part. No regrets on the tombstone. And I think when we think about these type of things, I think we have to ask ourselves what gives us our moments and challenge ourselves with choice. When we went back to that exercise we did a few minutes ago and saying, you know, 3 years time, and we say, wow, that was a fantastic year, because we may find that when we look back at that and think, okay, well, if that's the case, then for 2 years time, I need to be in this position. Then we continue to ask ourselves, so what do I need to do to be in this position? You might find that the plan to achieve that beginning of 2 years time, you might think, I'm not prepared to do that. Okay, I'm not prepared to work, 20 hours a day for 7 days a week to be in the position to have that year in 3 years' time.
But do you know what it does?
Go on. I hope you're going to say what I'm thinking.
If you ask better questions, you get better answers. And if you start framing like, I'm not prepared to do this to get that outcome, then what else can you do that you are prepared to do to still get the outcome?
Yeah.
Which might be not doing the job you're doing now. It might be that you do something
Correct.
on the side. It might be that you get a partner or a change. Just
Correct.
whatever you can change. There's 1,000 pieces on the chessboard to move
Yeah.
to get the same outcome. It doesn't have to be down the same linear fashion you've done the last
Get
5
help.
years.
Get help. Always be speaking with somebody, because they will challenge you more than you. We'll turn around and say, we can't because, no because. Someone else will say, well, yes, if. So again, you could change career. Sounds too simplistic. But likewise, by the way, here's the big message I was going to finish on. Your goal doesn't need to change. You just might move it back a year. So by doing that, 3 years' time looked like this. And therefore, to achieve that, this is what I'd have to do. And imagine if you investigated all opportunities. You think, do you know what? Yeah, I'm not prepared to do all that, but I still want that year. Move the year back just 1 year. Just 1 year. And say, okay, well, now I can just do this. That's doable. I'm comfortable to that. So sometimes I say to people, if your goal is the correct goal, don't change the goal. Change the plan to achieve it.
Just before we move on to the next question, I've got a very short little story that hopefully will help people, because part of the challenge with goal setting is that it's very hard. So for a long time, I personally set goals. And you go, well, how am I just don't know how. Like, it's easy to write a goal out, and then it's very easy to fall into the trap of going, right, well, I'm going to try and break this down into granular detail, and you spend hours and hours trying to write it all out, and then you burn out, and then you just end up not doing it, and then you move on. So what I was going to say is, a story-wise, one way to get around it is to accept the fact that there's always the unknown out there. Like you said yourself, you set your goal to retire in 2022, July 2022, but you didn't know how. And the story I've got is this, and I heard this once being said, and it really stuck with me. If you can imagine you're in a field. Let's say you're in a football field. And somewhere, and then off in the distance somewhere is your goal. A yellow cone is your goal. Now, you can't see your goal because there's a brick wall on your left. So you can't see the yellow cone that's off in the distance behind the brick wall, but the brick wall's only so long. So you can only go down the path that you can see that's far enough in advance that you can see, right? So let's say you then walk, right, well, I'm going to walk down the path of goal setting or doing things, and you get to the end of the brick wall, which then enables you to look left and right, and all of a sudden you can see off in the distance your yellow cone, your goal. So the point is of that story that sometimes you won't see how you can get to your goal.
Often.
But as you are progressing down your journey, life and the barriers of life and so forth, you'll work through your brick wall, and you'll get to the point where the barriers will be removed, and all of a sudden the fog will clear, and you go, right, I can see that now. I can see how I'm going to get there.
I think that's an interesting analogy.
And it might take you time to get to the point where you can see how you're going to retire at 60 in 2022 or whatever it is. But you've got to go somewhat down the journey to allow the journey of life to reveal to you how you're going to actually get to the goal you want. And if you know you want to get to that goal, you're always going to be open to the impression from life that when that message comes that says you can do it this way, then you're going to grab hold of it, like you did with your own circumstance you just described. It's
exactly what happened. I mean, when I say, I don't know if it is called law of attraction, but
it's essentially
I think it's a similar thing, isn't it? But if you visualize it, I'm not sure I hold the total thought of, if you visualize it, it'll happen. But, my own experience, it did.
Well, Phil,
it did.
We can break this down so it's a little bit less airy-fairy, let's say, right? Law of attraction is this. We're all working and doing what we do in life because our internal dialogue has pushed us along down a path. There are people doing all different things in life, from swimming at the bottom of oceans as their profession, to flying planes, to doing boiler changes, to business coaches and whatever. People are driven by the things that inherently are in their core that tell them, I need to do that. I need to do combat sports. I need to play football. I need to be vegetarian. I need to go for a walk every day because I love the sunshine. I want to, dress in bright colours, whatever it is. All the things that are inside of us come out through our mind and our brain and impact and influence how we operate in life.
Yeah.
My point is this: if you concentrate on the things that you want to do and you believe it's strong enough because it's part of your DNA, then you're going to drive towards that outcome.
You will.
And that's why I'm going back to the law of attraction. The reason it works so well is because if you decide you want something, you can articulate that and you know what it is. In your case, it was retiring at 60. It's always there. It's always never going to go because it's something you believe you absolutely need and want in life.
Yeah.
So then as you move through life and there's an opportunity that reveals to you how you can get it, then you change course and you go towards that outcome because it's assisting the thing that you want to get hold of.
Yeah.
And that's what the law of attraction is. It's being open to the universe to present opportunities that help you drive closer towards the goal you want to get. And that's why it works, because it works in a not in a subconscious way, but in a way that
kind of is. It's subliminal as well.
It kind of happens. You know, you hear something on television, and we've all had this. We were only talking earlier on about Portugal and bits and pieces, that all of a sudden you go, right, well, we always kind of want this outcome, and so now something's cropped up, and actually I might take that, and now you're suddenly going that direction, and there'll be people in that direction that you'll meet that will change your life,
without
that will take
doubt.
you in a different direction. And
Without doubt. I think luck comes into things, but related to what you just said, I mean, I could turn around and say, look, I've been lucky, but then where I've got, no, bear with me, because this could give an interesting slant.
Go for it.
Yes, I'm the first to turn around and say, I've been lucky, and then I say, no, actually, I haven't been lucky. I've worked really hard.
Created opportunity.
Well, I think I've been lucky, but when I add this bit on, there have been lucky moments that I've then recognised and turned it into opportunity. That's the part I mean. So
I'm nodding vigorously.
So maybe,
for those who,
so I
can't
wasn't
see.
lucky in as much as there was a bit of luck, which it was, okay? But then I saw an opportunity. Someone else could have had that bit of luck and just didn't do anything with
Let it go.
So then I did something with it, which I'm proud about. I had an opportunity. I decided to make a difference and sell my businesses. I decided to make a difference on the way I live my life. And don't get me wrong, ladies and gentlemen, I was having a good life before, but I was working 14, 15 hours a day to have a holiday or two. You know, it was, you know, we didn't miss out on the kids' things and everything else, but I would work around the clock to not miss out on something. Now it's like, no, hang on a minute. I plan my diary. I plan my diary for a minimum of 12 months, and I plan fitness time, thoughts time, reading time. I literally, when I'm looking at my goal setting, what do I want to do in the next 12 months that keeps me on plan?
And all those things you're doing that you've planned in are creating space where other opportunities can come in. And as you say, if you're on the mindset of wanting to move forward in life and you're driving that way and opportunities come, you grab them. I mean, what was the quote? I think it was Winston Churchill that said it. Something like, woe is the man, well, let's say person.
Yeah.
Woe is the person who, when opportunity presents itself, they are not prepared to receive it.
Yeah, and I think
Something
that's
like
when,
that.
but you've got to have that mindset. But remember, I don't want anyone to search for better when where they are is good enough. There's something inherent, I find, in most of us that probably goes back to our childhood. Who are we working this hard for? Who are we waiting for to say, I'm proud of you, son, or I'm proud of you, darling, or I'm proud of you, person? But sometimes we're striving for others to recognize us, and we're just waiting for that moment of recognition. And I wrote down a minute ago when you were excellently explaining, I thought, we need to do these things for ourselves, not for anybody else. We need to become selfish.
I think that everyone listening to this podcast is listening to it because the title was all and is all about goal setting and taking on the philosophy. And I know we're diving down the psychological side of here.
Yes, I've been enjoying this.
It's
actually.
good
Yeah.
because all the psychology of goal setting and the philosophy behind pushing yourself forward is the thing that drives everything else. Literally, guys, if Phil and I here today didn't talk anything more than just philosophy and the psychology of it, you would not be at a loss, because you might say, well, I didn't leave with an actual roadmap of how to set goals.
Yeah.
It wouldn't matter, because if the lesson you got out of today's podcast was just the psychology and philosophy of go after life, go after opportunity, you would leave this and go, well, I'll just carry on listening to other stuff. I'd read another book. Something else would come up, and you'd find your roadmap in another way, because what we've discussed is embedded in your brain. You've got the philosophy
Without
to
doubt.
drive it on.
If you want to do something I've learned throughout my life, particularly looking back at it, do you know, if I want to do something, 2003 was a fantastic year because I'll work out how to do it. I've never, ever done that exercise and not achieved that goal, ever.
And do you know what I wanted to stress? Because you and I, we're your business coach, so you're like goal setting, it's like your world.
By the way, let me just clarify one thing.
Please.
Regarding business coach, and with respect to any business coach that listens to this, I don't care what I'm called. I actually cringe when it's a business coach. With respect to the business coaches out there, I just make a difference to people in the way they live their life.
Do you know what I have?
Call me what you like. I actually don't want to be labelled a business coach. Not because I'm disrespecting business coaches, mentors. I love making a difference to people's lives. Yep. And I actually don't have a, what am I called?
That's perfect.
Sorry to
No. That's fine. I just was.
Yeah.
So the point is, you and I are quite enthusiastic about talking about goal setting and all of the rest of that, right? There might be people listening today who are just touching this subject for the first time. They're coming to their revelation moment, their realization that they could do something different.
Brilliant.
And they could clear the fog of just being too busy in life. And they could suddenly realize that if they wanted to create time, they could change their trajectory entirely. So, a lot of what we're talking about is pretty deep. But I'd ask those people just to take on board the fact that, and hopefully we are going to get to some more specifics, but take away the philosophy of opening your mind up to, if you want something different, change the way you think and you'll have something different. Yeah,
and again, not easy, but you need to use the words yes if and not no because. Okay, and this is actually very interesting. Would this be a good idea? Well, it's very difficult, which is a no because. Would you like to do that? Well, I'd like to, but it's a no because. Okay, so it'd be like, well, yes, if. Yes, if what?
If this was right.
Yes, if we could change this, or yes, if we had some more money. Okay, so how do we do that? So if you can live your life continuing to search with, so how do we do that? How do we do that? If you haven't got a how do we do that as a question, then really you're not searching, you're existing.
Yeah.
And something else I'd like to say, because I do think we haven't just been talking about the psychology of this. I would encourage people to understand the difference between life goals and business goals. So if I can ask you a question, Andrew, talking about time-wise, short-term, mid-term and long-term, in your life generally, or what do you think in most people's lives, if they're setting goals, and I'm not talking about personal or business, doesn't matter, but if they're setting goals and we're talking about short-term, mid-term and long-term, what do you think generally are people's short-term period, mid-term period and long-term period, or what have yours generally been?
Perfect. Okay. So I think people always go automatically to my 1 year goal.
Yeah.
Standard, because it's like a big solid block of time. I think people thinking about 3 years and 5 years scares them because I think that they can't imagine that far in advance or how they may get there, which is why when you said earlier about writing your what did my year look like is such a powerful thing, because it lets you just casually define what the year looks like, which all of a sudden goes, wow, I've just created a 3 year my 3 year goal without even thinking about
3 year plan.
Sorry.
Well, you create a 3 year plan with goals on the way.
That's what I mean. Yeah, exactly. So all of a sudden you've overcome that. Personally, my short-term goal and the way I overcome stagnation, or the way I like to think I overcome stagnation in terms of getting threatened by trying to set out a whole year's worth of goals and going, oh my God, how do I do it? Is I try and work on a quarterly basis. Okay. So if, for instance, I am setting goal setting at the moment, if I don't write my whole year out, I'm not going to stress about it. And this is important for my psychology. I don't want to feel like I've failed before I've started because I didn't get to writing my whole year out. I'd rather just go, well, I've done Q1 or quarter one of the year, be comfortable I've got it done, be really solid on that, and then go, okay, let's do Q2, Q3, Q4 throughout Q1 if I have to. Obviously, perfect world, I'll go, well, what do I want my year one to look like? And then we're back. But if for whatever reason, just giving people permission on the call, because we're all different and where we're doing and how we do it, if all you end up doing, I feel, is doing a 12-week plan and going, I feel really good about the next 12 weeks, i.e. a quarter of the year. And then you progress, perhaps with some assistance of a mentor, some support, whether it's your partner or someone more professional, whatever, then I still feel like you're moving forward because it's a process.
It's an interesting thought. As you're saying, I'm thinking, but hang on a minute. If I'm doing a 12-week plan, then what I'm thinking is, which I like, what I'm thinking is that means I'm starting at the beginning. Now, I could say, okay, what does the next 12 weeks look like? Or what am I going to be doing in the next 12 weeks? I think that creates activity. But if after the 12 weeks, I'm in a place that isn't setting me on target for the 12 months, then I don't know why. It's almost like I could be going at, say, 11 o'clock in the 11 o'clock direction for the next 12 weeks. Great, tick. Then I think, right, next quarter. And I think, right, now I need to go at 1 o'clock. So I'm almost turning right again. I just sometimes feel, what I loved about what you said was a lot of people, when we talk about short-term, medium-term, long-term, they talk about 1 year, 3 years, 5 years. And they talk about that as a business plan. I actually do 3 months, 6 months, 12 months. Okay. I don't do the 9 month for whatever reason. I review it regularly. That's different. But I do a 3 month, 6 month, 12 month is my short term, mid term, long term. But I start with a life plan versus a business plan. And you could turn around and say that connects to the 2003 was a fantastic year because. So I start with a life plan. What do I want my life to look like? Let me give everyone an example here. Just turning around to our audience and asking some questions, would it be lovely if in 2 years' time you were able for the next year to work 1 hour a day less? How nice would that be?
Beautiful.
Now be careful, because what would you do with that hour? Because sometimes you can create time and then think, well, actually, what am I going to do with it? So you almost want to think, but if I had that 1 hour, this is what I could do. So actually, it's giving you a real incentive that, wow, if I worked an hour less, I would do this with it. Because a lot of people think, well, yeah, it'd be great to work an hour less. Okay, why? We just would. But then that's not enough. So thinking about 2 years' time and working on this, could I work an hour a day less? Could I take Friday afternoon off? I'm just saying if it's a 5-day week, for example. So would it be lovely to just work or not work Friday afternoons? And if some of you are sitting here now thinking, well, that would be lovely. And if I could encourage you to not think, yeah, but, which is a no because, and if I could encourage you to think, well, yes, if, then why can't we start to plan that now? So for me, a life plan is for how I want my life to look like in approximately 2 to 3 years maximum. And every business decision I make is related to, does that fit my life plan? So I don't make business decisions first. I make life decisions, and then my business decisions are they on time? And then are they on the right line? And the last thing I would like to just to on that part is I wrote something down that people should not wait. This is a really big message. People should not wait to reach their destination before celebrating. And actually, most people are guilty of reaching the destination and then not even celebrating and thinking, what next?
Well, it's an important part of goal setting, isn't it? Because if you don't plan in your rewards,
correct,
then you do not create a mindset of like a
celebration.
I'm sorry,
absolutely,
because you can celebrate the milestone, and it doesn't have to be some major thing.
Doesn't.
It could be like, well, I've just made the bed every day for a week.
Yeah,
I'm gonna have a chocolate bar.
Yeah,
if that's a success.
Yeah,
if that's
absolutely.
A reward,
I completely agree with that.
Because it all builds from small things. From small seeds grow big trees.
Yeah.
So if your small reward is if you're going to eat well all week, salads, whatever, and then you get to the end of the week, you think, and I'm going to have a big bowl of pasta on Saturday night. That's a good win because you're creating the habit of a reward versus doing something, and the habit of doing that can be expanded into larger fields.
I love that. And how will the pasta taste?
Amazing. I make the best because I make the best spaghetti in England.
But what else? Why would that taste so lovely?
Because
it's good. But
yeah, sorry, because it's honest.
It's good. I'm just thinking.
I'm sorry, I'm honest. What can you do? It would taste so good because you'll know that you achieved it. You deserved it because of what you've done, and it always tastes better knowing that you've achieved something.
This is celebration. This is I've earned this. It feels good. And the face and the way we feel. So, as you say, it could be, and obviously a lot of people are tuning in here thinking, okay, goal setting, money. Yes, but I hope you'll all realise that everything we've talked about has to include money.
Goal setting, life, then money to get life.
Well, the money is the necessity to give us the quality. So, but it starts with, how do I want my life to lead? Right. So how much do I need? So what do I need to do? Et cetera, et cetera. So money is the kind of the root of it, but the money is the activity for the goal. The money's not the goal. You could set yourself a target that, these are our profit targets. Profit, by the way, not turnover. That's really important. I set profit targets. I very rarely set turnover targets. I have to know what my turnover would be to achieve that profit, but I set profit goals. That's more important. I always used to say I used to spend money when I had turnover and wonder why I had no money left. So it's really, really important that we look at what profit is needed with all expenses. And when you do that, imagine, please, I had one of my clients this year. We're at the end of December. This lady is a virtual assistant. So I work with individuals as well as senior people in organizations. And this lady, she wouldn't mind me saying, she's a small company, was just her. She didn't plan on expanding this year. She didn't want to. She wasn't really particularly covering her expenses at the beginning of the year. And all I would say is she had I'm not going to say a low figure, but she had a goal to achieve an income for herself of £2,700 a month. So I work with people that aren't necessarily earning fortunes, respectfully. We had a plan. We worked on a plan. She's now recruited one person. It happens to be her mother, but she's now recruited one person full-time, and her personal income has gone to 3,750. So she's earned an extra £1,000 a month on top of her original target. But it was interesting because I said to her, what were you planning to do with that? And she hadn't thought about it. So as we've now created her goals for the next 12 months, we've literally turned around and said, okay, well, when we hit this figure during the 12 months, what are you going to spend it on? Percentage of it on. And honestly, as we've done it, I said, how will that feel if you do that? She said, oh, but great. I said, if we get to the end of this year and you've done A, B, C, and D, as in 4 quarters, you've achieved 4 milestones. That's where your 12-week, I think, comes in brilliantly. You've achieved 4 milestones and you've achieved these 4 rewards. How would you feel? She said, that would be amazing. I said, let's do it.
Do you know why I think it's important to work within 12-week blocks as well, from a psychology perspective? Because it does 2 things. One, it's easier to not get overwhelmed.
Yes.
2, when we set an annual goal, and this leads me into my next kind of question about common pitfalls to avoid when setting goals.
Yes.
When you have a year and you set it all out, you think, and then January's really busy and you just didn't create the habit to start working and doing action-orientated things, it's easy to go, oh, well, I've got a whole year. I'll start again in February. That'll be my start again, right?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, February, halfway through, and I'll do a little bit in February, but maybe I didn't do as much as I want. So I'll start properly in March because I've still got 9 months left, whatever. Yeah. And all of a sudden, you've lost a whole quarter. You've lost time, and et cetera, because you're thinking on a year, and I've still got 9 months to do the one goal for the year.
Yes.
As opposed to setting a 12-week goal, which is part of the year, of course, but with a 12-week focus, so that you think, well, I've only got 12 weeks. And if I miss a week from 12 weeks, it's tangible. Yeah. I can't afford to lose a week because I've broken down my 12-week goal into 12 steps.
Nice.
And I need to hit this week's steps because otherwise I'm going to be at a backlog next week. And so it's more... I need to do, otherwise I'm going to be behind, as opposed to, I can start later because I've still got 9 months left.
Yes. I love what you said. I mean, I'm listening to you, and you know how I admire you and the way you think and your creative mind. You're very, very disciplined, and I'm sure a lot of people...
I do try. I'm a trier.
A lot of people could be listening to this thinking, wow, this is like, so each week. Because in theory, to what you're saying is, you're actually not setting 12-week goal. In theory, what you're kind of saying and what I'm hearing is you're setting 12 goals in a 12-week period.
Yeah.
Now, some people might think, wow, that's very anal, it's very disciplined. And I'm going to say to you, whatever works.
But it doesn't have to be big.
But whatever works.
Small.
But it's not, to some people, it can't be that disciplined. And my point is, whatever works.
Yeah, everyone's DNA has to be separate.
I couldn't break my time down into 12 different weeks. I couldn't. Because, and likewise, someone else could turn that round and should do and say, okay, each day. And why not? So I think where you're amazing is it's that mindset that, in my opinion, it doesn't matter how you do it. It matters that you do it.
Yeah,
and
it's got to suit your DNA. Like, I can't exercise in the evening.
Yeah,
Game over. If I'm going to run, I'd rather run out in the dark at 5:30 in the morning or whatever time.
Yeah,
knowing that it's done. So after that, it's like free day. Get on with what you're gonna do. If I get to the end of the day, I'm knackered. The last thing in my brain. So why make it harder for myself?
I love that. I love that.
It's just how I do it.
No,
Some people train in the evening and they love it. I just really struggle. So the point is, make everything we're talking about suit your DNA.
Without doubt. But do it.
Action.
Do it. It starts with desire. So, checkpoints, however you want to do it, rewards, checkpoints, milestones. I actually think if we have too many goals, then it's too many goals. Now, what I mean by that is, for me, I have a 2 to 3 year life plan, which tells me where do I need to be at the end of this 12 months, where the 12 months before, where do I need to be at the end of the next 12 months? Once I know where I need to be at the end of the next 12 months, okay, so where do I need to be in this quarter, etc. And then I want celebrations all the way along. What happens if we never, ever get the Ferrari? Did we enjoy the BMW?
Exactly.
So we've got the BMW. We've got to enjoy it because we haven't got the Ferrari yet. Yeah. But if you have your goal and you have your plan and circumstances do not change out of your control, you will arrive at your destination on the date you planned. I mean, interestingly, driving over to your beautiful home here today, I got in the car 12:50 actually. Sorry, 12:50. 7:50. I said I'd be here about 9ish. Put it onto my sat nav last night. It said an hour and 15 minutes. So I was in the car this morning at 7:50 thinking, okay, probably a bad time with traffic. As it happens, the traffic's amazing today. The sat nav said 9 a.m. I sent you a message and put, it says I'm going to arrive about 9 a.m. I arrived here at 8:58. Driving very steady for me, but 8:58. And you're sitting there thinking, wow. Now, the onboard sat nav every second is thinking, are we where I'm supposed to be now? Are we where I'm supposed to be now? It doesn't think we need to be there in an hour and 10. We need to be there in an hour and 5. We need to be there in an hour. It's, am I on schedule? Am I on plan now? Because if you are all the way along the journey, you arrive at your destination.
Okay, brilliant. Segue into my next point here. Common pitfalls to avoid, as we said before, when setting goals. I think one would be, based on what you just said there, the common pitfall would be that people don't set milestones between the goal they want to hit and where they are now, to do what you've just suggested about the sat-nav, where you can check against your milestones and then go, right, am I where I should be on the milestones leading towards the outcome? Yeah. They just set a goal at the end of the year.
And kind of 1 month before, did I get there, did I not, or are we on target, we're not? You must review along the way. Think of this is a story I often tell. Think of a plane taking off at LA and coming back to Heathrow. The onboard computer is literally keeping that plane, imagine drawing a straight line between LA and Heathrow. The plane does not perfectly go along that straight line. It veers off because of the wind, etc., and veers back again. But the computer, every millisecond, if that's English, is putting it back on track. It doesn't think Heathrow, Heathrow, Heathrow. It's thinking now, now, now. At the end of the day, that's already planned. The route is already in the computer. On the basis, it just keeps getting back. So I think the moral of the story is review continuously. And to do that, it's diary planning.
Yeah, set the time aside.
Yeah, don't wait for the time to appear. Literally become, I admire you for your discipline. This is you, Andrew. And people must become, in their own way, disciplined. Create habits. That's a good word. Create habits. Now, it's funny because I've been very privileged. I've got a gymnasium at home. Before everyone thinks that sounds grand, I always wanted like the house with a gym in it. I've actually got the gym with a house around it, okay? And I wanted the gym at home because I know with the way I work, it would be more difficult, not impossible, more difficult for me to stop, get up, go to the gym, do my session, come back. So actually, believe it or not, I do my workouts through the day.
I see.
And it just works for me. But what it does, I've got a half an hour gap between a mentoring call with a client on Zoom. And I literally will think, right, I know I'm going to do 10 to 15 minutes. And I will do 10 to 15 minutes on a particular exercise. And I then come back to the desk and I feel good. I've done my 10, 15 minutes on that particular exercise. I've got 15 minutes of preparation prior to my next Zoom. I've got my next Zoom. And then again, I'll go up and do another 15 minutes.
That's good.
And it works for me mentally throughout my day, where I can stay at the end of it. Wow, you know, I've had a great day with clients, but I've had a great day exercising.
And it suits you, and you've made it work to your DNA is the important thing. And that's the most important thing. You know, common pitfall. A lot of people read books and they listen to things and they think, right, well, that person set out the way to do it. And they think that is it. I always remember this one. I started this journey years ago reading a book called The Miracle Morning, because I wanted to know how I could get more time in my day to do more. And I just decided to wake up earlier. And the whole thing about the miracle morning, you know, just get out of bed at 5 and don't get out of bed at 6:30. You've got an hour and a half extra a day, which is essentially like a whole day's worth of work, 7-8 hours. If you do that every day or across a whole week.
Yes.
Oh, wow. So I've added another day every week to my life for every week of the year. So now I'm living more than everyone else lives.
Brilliant. If you know what you're going to do with that day.
Of course.
Brilliant.
Now, the Miracle Morning book was interesting because it talked about getting up and doing 5 or 6 things: affirmations, visualizations, meditating, journaling, reading, exercise, and having a morning routine. And, not, you know, you can get to the end of that, you can go, oh, wow, you know, so I've done all these things before anyone's even got out of bed yet.
It's a good feeling, isn't it?
It is a good feeling. What I also discovered, though, by doing that process was that some of the things that the Miracle Morning book, which I recommend reading if you're on the start of this process, because it just gets the juices going, didn't work for me, didn't work for my DNA. Sitting and doing affirmations, which essentially means you sit there going, I am an amazing person, I'm great, and in my kitchen on my own was just I was like, what am I doing? You know, and that didn't work. Visualizations, having a visualization board with the yacht on it and whatever, just didn't work for me psychologically. And, you know, with my DNA, what did work was journaling. Love that. Helps me track my thoughts, reread and go through. Reading each morning worked really well for me. So my point is, I took the things that worked and I applied them. I let go of the things that didn't work and I let them go. I didn't feel guilty for it because I understood if it suits my DNA, then I'm only going to become strong because I'm playing in my flame, as we like to say. And so I would say to people listening is concentrate on the things that work for you. Just because it says do this in a book, do that in a book, get up and do whatever, do what works for you. And if doing the visualizations and doing the affirmations work for you, do that, brilliant. But don't get hung up on having to follow a process. Just read a bit that says do it this way, try it. If it doesn't work, take the things to do. Read something else, you know, if that works for you, and then combine to your own method, a bit like your gym. So you're doing your exercise in the way that works for you. And as part of that process, if you've got to create your own space to do your meditation, or you need a little gym space, or you've got a shed in the garden you know you need to now get, or whatever, just do what you need to do. But don't be scared to say, do you know what? Although that book sold 1 million copies, it just doesn't work for me.
Oh, absolutely. There is no one way. I mean, think of 6 + 3 and 5 + 4, right? That comes from a very good friend of mine called Simon Finn. Okay, 6 + 3, 5 + 4, they both come to 9.
I know, the Irish
gentleman from Ireland, Oh, yes. So, but 6 + 3, 5 + 4, they both arrive at 9. So it's whatever, it's a way that suits you. And I kind of really like that. I think that's important.
Are there any other common pitfalls that you see from the people that you help dream catch?
I do.
That you might want to reference?
Yeah. I think set the goals that you want to set, not that someone else wants you to set. And also, go back to the word why. I remember a client, I'd been speaking, I was a keynote speaker at an event talking about increasing sales. And at the end of it, a gentleman came up to me and asked me would I be interested in coming and working with him as company. So I kind of had a meeting with him, really nice guy actually. I had a meeting with him and I said, so look, you know, what would you like to achieve in our relationship during the first year? He said, well, an increase of 5% would be fantastic. And this was fascinating. Successful guy, excuse me. And I said to him, why 5%? He said, well, because that's better than last year. So I said, but 1% is better than last year. He said, yeah, but that doesn't sound so great. So I said, okay, would 10% be too much? If we can achieve 10%, it'll be fantastic. So I said, so what we're really saying is you've got no idea why you said 5%. And he laughed. He said, I suppose I haven't really. Now, he'd fall into the trap of, surely you've just got to look at increasing profit each year. Isn't that goal setting? But what about having the same profit and working less? Could that be a good goal set?
And a lot of people don't realise things like that, which is why I love when you talk about, and you always go back to life goals and stuff. Why it's so powerful, because sometimes we all think we've got to set goals that will just improve more money or will improve, I can get the car I want. And actually going backwards and saying, do you know what, but does that allow my life to improve? And thus then it's like the question of, well, do I want to work 4.5 days instead of 5? And all of a sudden you go, well, I suppose it's possible if I just worked another hour a day, then the hour every day is another 4 hours, which is the half day. Well, now I've got a half.
That's it. But that's exactly how I
take
work
a half
now.
day off.
That's exactly how I work now. I mean, our viewers won't know, and for those that can see me, you won't know, but I've actually ruptured my Achilles. So I'm wearing a lovely big boot from my knee to my toe because this was the shortest return to a football career I could ever have. So I decided I got to 60 years old, let's go back to playing football.
Just a milestone, Phil.
It's just a milestone. But the point being that until then, I've been playing golf once during the week and now don't work weekends. Now, some people might go, well, okay, that doesn't sound much. Well, it does, because I used to work kind of 7 days. I definitely,
it was a big deal for you.
Yeah, I would definitely have family time, but I would definitely be in my office still on a Saturday and a few hours on a Sunday. I don't touch work on a weekend now. I always play golf, subject to my now injury, on a weekday. But I've realised that I would be working maybe 12 or 13 hours, and some of you might think, well, lucky you, Phil. Well, as in only 12 or 13 hours. But I've put myself in a position from 58 years of hard work to make this choice, and I only choose to work the way I want to work.
Do you think you could have done it sooner?
If I wanted to.
Do you think it was inevitable because, you know, life just was what it was, and it was only when you took it seriously enough to do it that you then took the decision? Because you said, I watched some people on television that died.
Yeah.
And that framed your mind to go.
Yep.
So if you hadn't watched the TV program, these people didn't die, you wouldn't have, and you might be doing the same thing.
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to get to is, what if something happened that affected your mind when you were 40?
Yeah, 100%. Well, you said it before, interesting. I thought, that's really interesting that you have the wall and you have the yellow cone, and sometimes you've got to wait.
Clear enough.
You did, but it was like sometimes you might have to wait. I think that's what I did, but I wasn't as clever as you. I didn't know.
Itself, yeah.
I just knew that I can't carry on working like this, but it was carrying on working like this. And as you say, maybe that brick wall that I just saw behind was the television with people passing away. And then I kind of thought, hang on, I don't want this. And it opened up, and it's like, because it's easy to say, I don't want to work like this. Let's change. It's not as simple as that. But what it did, it created a plan that I didn't have at the time. It was like, I've made a decision. Now, how can I make this work? But it was desire first. So desire first.
Why? Your why.
100%.
Desire, i.e. your why.
I was not prepared to go to the grave working like this when any of my good friends, and you'd be in that bracket now, would turn around and say, well, there's no surprise. I think if I'd have passed away at 55, I don't think any of my friends would have said, well, there's a surprise. And that has to have an effect on most of us, surely. There's the old joke about the kids, right? We all work really hard, and we give them we work so hard to give the kids fantastic Christmas presents, and all they're interested in is the box.
I know.
Yeah. So sometimes we have to recognize selfishly, when is good enough good enough? So the pitfalls that you asked me is, set the goals for yourself, not for anybody else other than your significant other half and your family. Make sure the goals you want are the goals, and don't strive for more if more isn't what you need.
Can I add one more onto this? I think a lot of people don't actively create space for the habit to take shape.
Diary planning.
Planning.
I will always revert to diary planning. You asked how I did it before. Start, stop, continue is an exercise, not mine. I read it in a book, can't remember, but it's start, stop, continue. What should I start doing in the next 12 months? And not because I want to, it would make a difference. What have I been doing that I should stop doing? Not because it hasn't worked, because if it worked, it wouldn't be good. I mean, I was working with a client recently that has stopped doing something that they should have continued to do because they couldn't make it work. Now, working with them, we've now made it work, and therefore they're making some really nice profit now. But it was like they quit too quickly because they couldn't make it work. So start, stop, continue.
Very good.
It's a good exercise.
3 lists right on a page.
Literally.
Get your brain going for your life.
And then you finish it with what's important, what's urgent. Because again, there are things we should start that feel good, but actually could affect us not achieving what we're currently doing. So be very, very careful that you don't start something new, shiny new objects, if you like, that you're not starting something new, stopping you completing what you were working on that would have been a good thing to complete. Be careful.
I'd just like to quickly touch on the areas of life that goals can be set. You know, we all naturally, especially when he's a business owner, listening, thinks, oh, business, which then goes money.
Yeah.
And you obviously said about a life plan. But if we were going to define some categories for people of where they could perhaps use your start, stop, continue list, because you can do that for business, but you can also do it for, and I'll just start this one, health.
Yeah, for sure. And I believe we should. You know what? So I say
and what else, by the way? That's the point.
I've just written some things down on a personal. Again, going back to this no regrets on the tombstone, holidays have always been important to Jackie and I. And when I say always important, you know, we've always managed to take one, to some people, nice holiday, to other people, very average holiday. But we've always taken a nice 2-week holiday with the kids every year. We've always been able to do that, worked hard to do it. We've probably had a weekend or two away, just the two of us again, important time. Holidays are very important for us to the extent that, without putting a number on it, because I just wouldn't, we know that we'd like to take X amount of holidays a year now. So that's become important. That has to be factored into the finance, as in, okay, what do they average out per month to earn, etc. Fitness is very, very important to me. Now, I believe fitness can, and maybe someone in the medical industry would say I'm wrong, and I'm happy to be, because I'm not sure if I'm 100% correct. But to me, I think there's a difference between fitness and health. And what I mean by that is, you know, you are a marathon runner. Okay, you are
I am actually.
Absolutely, right? You are a very fit guy.
Well, not
in younger terms, let me turn around and say I have no interest in you at all, but just to be clear, but you are a fit guy, okay? I'm a strong guy, okay? I do my exercises, I'm a strong guy. But as has proved in the second minute of my second football game, when I ruptured my Achilles, I haven't been fit, okay? Or, yeah, I'd say I haven't been fit, but I've been healthy and I've been strong. So without taking people to kind of do this, do that, again, I love your saying before, what works for one doesn't work in another. But I do believe our health is very, very important. And I think everyone would know that. But, you know, let's face it, without judgment, and I preempt this, without judgment, for those people out there that smoke, there isn't a person in the world that smokes that says, hey, it's a good thing. Now, some of you might be thinking, no, it is, Phil, it keeps me sane. But health-wise, we know there must be other ways to do it. That is no judgment, no criticism. But no one can say it's a good thing. Otherwise, we'd all take it up. But the point I'm getting at is, if it works for you and that's the way you choose to live your life, fine. I always say be 150, 100, 200 kilos and happy, rather than strive to be 70 kilos and sad. So I'm a great believer of that. I know what I'd like to look like. I know how I like to feel. So for me, I have to have health and fitness goals. That's important. But I think we should have the way we're working goals.
So if we just, sorry, because I'm with you, but I'm just making notes as we talk. So health, which can break into lots of different things, but health and fitness, let's say, so that could
relationships.
That could be food. Yeah, relationships and family.
Without doubt, relationships. And again, that could be, you know, if you were doing a mind map, you could split that off into your significant other half, if you have one, the kids, etc.
Friends.
Yeah, very, very important. I mean, look, at the end of the day, you know, I would say that my kids are young adults. My son's 32 now. My daughter's 26. We're very blessed. They, in the last 5, 6, 7 years, would now turn around and appreciate the way I worked. But I would say before that, they wouldn't appreciate the way I worked. They just saw Daddy out.
Daddy's just working.
Yeah. So it's very, very important that we can have moments, those pictures on the phone I was talking about earlier, those memories, that we can have those moments during the journey. I think that's important. So I think relationships is very important. So we've got relationships, fitness and health. Obviously, we would then have our business goals, which would then include finances. And I would also encourage people, which is something I did not do well enough younger, investment goals. And that's not normally in people's goal-setting psyche. Because, again, living now, what car do you want, etc. These are all important. What car do you want to drive? Do you like your clothes, etc.? Do you want to be at the golf club? Do you want to be at the gym? However you decide to do it. But investment goals, I would now more than I ever used to encourage people to consider. You know, I've always had nice cars and yet maybe no light bulbs at home. I'm using that as an example. If I had my time again, I would get a car down from the car I bought, which would still been a lovely car, and started investing towards a pensionable age for later in life. And I would strongly encourage people that, yes, you might think, well, if I don't buy the Ferrari now, I may never have it. No, I agree with that. But buy the Ferrari when you can really afford it. Because likewise, you could buy the Ferrari and think, wow, enjoy it, but then you're not investing in your future as well. So it's a fine line, and that's the one big thing that I would change if I had my life again. Because I can't turn around and say I've got regrets, because they're a waste. I always say if I could have my life again, this is the thing I would do differently. I would just have invested, even if it felt small at the time, I would have invested money that made my future easier. A big lesson, ladies and gentlemen, make your money make money.
Which is a whole nother topic. It's a big
Correct.
topic itself. So we've got health, fitness, which obviously pulls in food as well, food habits.
Oh, of course.
We've got personal goals and well-being.
Yes,
you know,
which could relate to, you know, some of these will connect for sure.
What are you doing for your spirit? What are you doing to, you know, let go of the stresses of life, whether it's punching a punch bag, whether it's playing golf or going out on rambles up mountains or walks in the forest or whatever it might be. You time, very important. So personal well-being. We've got business, which includes finances and investment.
Well, you'd break those down, wouldn't you? What did your business? I mean, for example, I was speaking to you about this virtual assistant, lovely client that I've got. She just had a plan to increase her income. The challenge was we were helping her become so successful that she had to recruit. Now, it's easy for anyone out there to say, look, I just want to remain a sole trader. The problem is, you've mentioned it earlier, the day doesn't get any longer. And if you are successful, you're only going to get more recommendations. You're only going to get busier. Oh, please excuse me.
Bless you.
Terrible.
No worries.
So ultimately, may I apologise to everybody there. So on the basis we're only going to get busier and the day stays the same size, you need to look at where am I going with all this?
What's the different methodology?
Thank
you.
Methodology. We could have been here an hour. Methodology.
Gosh.
Just keep saying to yourself, where am I going with this? Why am I working? If our answer is, stupid question, Phil, I often go on stage actually and say, look, you know, why are you working? And you can see people's minds kind of going, that's a stupid question. I've got to pay the bills. Yeah, I know that. Got to pay the mortgage. Yeah, I know that. Got to feed the kids. Yeah, I know that. Got to live. We know that. Very few people say, I'm working like this because in 3 years' time, this is the result of working like this. And then 3 years after that. Could you imagine if everybody had a 3-year plan to work 3 hours less a week?
Which is
every 3 years.
Which is massively possible.
Correct. So on that, I'll do that in a lower tone next time. Correct. So on that basis, okay, in 3 years' time, I'm going to work 3 hours less. In another 3 years' time, I'm going to work another 3 hours less. In another 3 years' time, so in 9 years, you're working a day a week less. 52 weeks I've just given you.
Can I just stress as well?
52 days.
All things being equal and assuming things don't change, working, we said earlier on this podcast that you could work 3 hours less by working a bit more time on other days. What if the time you actually worked, you just earned a bit more money?
Perfect.
Which essentially would equate to the time you'd spend in those 3 hours working. Perfect. So that you don't have to work more by putting another hour in on another day. You just earn more money on average, that then still gives you the 3 hours back as well.
Well, that would,
your price up by
be another subject, another
something.
podcast. But I teach people how to make more profit. That's what I do generally. Okay, ultimately, you can reduce expenses, you can upsell, and I guarantee you that most of our listeners on here, and a lot of you are about to shake your head, most of our listeners do not charge their clients your worth. You're worth more than you're charging your clients. Most of you are now nodding your head, and you'll be upset that you've got competitors not as good as you charging more and getting away with it. So
such good topics.
Another subject, another day, but please put your prices up and charge people what you're worth. Now you can spend less time in your business making more money because you deserve it.
I listened to a really good thing by Jim Rohn, who's a great speaker.
He is.
And he said, essentially, you can earn more in life by bringing more value to the market.
Correct. Well, then you're worth more. But also remember, we are planning the future as well. Passive income is another subject. Passive income is a wonderful way to be living your life, but you've got to plan for that now.
Yeah, have a plan. These are amazing. I'd love to. Oh, what about this? And I go on.
It's what we do.
We could spend hours. Yeah, exactly. Perfect. So we've got personal. Just to summarise this: health, fitness, food, personal well-being, business, finances, investment, family relationships with friends, and that wonderful tool, having a list of stop doing something, start doing something, continue doing something. Amazing. In terms of techniques or tools, so maybe from a very functional perspective, could you suggest anything that you use or that you know people have used that you come across for tracking progress? Is it keeping a journal? Is it using an Excel spreadsheet? Is it having or going out and buying some kind of diary that's specifically just for tracking goals? Is it a mix of all of that?
I think it's a 6 + 3, 5 + 4. Okay, both equals 9. For example, mine is monthly. Okay, I know I have my plans, and mine is monthly. I do a financial review at the end of every single month.
Do you mean a goal? Is that a financial goal review?
It's an income expenses. I literally, at the end of every single month, I know who owes me what, who doesn't owe me what I'm laying out, what things we've got to purchase, etc., etc., etc. So I have a financial review, but I have literally a half day every month in my diary, and it is literally my review.
Perfect.
For me, it's being organised. I find that it's very unlikely, and from my experience, I've not seen anyone achieve it. I've not seen anybody that is consistently successful yet disorganised. I've not met them. Now, I have seen some consistently successful people who are not organised, but they have someone with them that organises them.
Yeah.
That's different. But you can't be disorganised and be consistently successful. So if you're going to want more success, you have to create good habits to monitor the success.
And how you look at it. What works well for me on many levels is keeping a journal, which, I can write nonsense in there, but on the days when stuff actually happens and you want to then write that down, what I do for my journal is I write it, and then I'll highlight the thing in that entry for that day that I might want to review by the end of the week.
Nice.
So that as I then go to the end of the week on the Friday, Saturday, Sunday, most probably when I do it, I haven't got to go back and reread every entry. I just read the highlighted bits.
Nice.
So it's quick.
Nice.
On the Sunday, and then I work out from the highlighted bits that I've recorded across the whole week what then I need to apply in terms of goals or add on to, smaller things for the following week so that I can go, right, because we have some ideas like what we discussed before this podcast started, where you think, I'll write about it, and then I've got to do something about that. I need to do a bit more research or whatever. But the memory is a very fickle thing. So unless you write it down or record it,
for me, it's diary entry every time. I mean, do you ever? And this might be something you'd be interested in. Do you ever write your journal ahead of time?
No.
It's an interesting thought, because if you write it at the end of the day,
I write it in the morning.
You write it in the morning, but about the day before. Because if you write it in the morning about the day ahead, then you are writing it ahead of time.
So what I do is, if I realise that in the morning, because if I've read a book, I might be wanting to recall what's inspired me on that, or if I've had a run and my brain's been going through whatever, I'll write that down. But I always I keep an open diary. So for me, I don't have a journal where it's a page for a day, because I don't like, if I want to write more and I go, where am I going to write it? Because I've only got a page for a day, and tomorrow's Saturday, and am I going to write smaller or whatever? So I keep a journal in a way that's freer. And if I write a whole page for the morning, and then in the afternoon I go, something come up, I'll just write a bit more, and I'll say morning, afternoon, whatever, evening, and it's very free. But that way then I can record the stuff as it happens. If I want to record the quote or the idea, I go, and it could be a sentence.
Look, I think, again, I'm sorry to repeat 6 + 3, 5 + 4, okay?
Whatever works. I'm just talking about it.
I love it the way you're doing it.
Talking it out.
I can't do it that way. No. For example, we are now, whatever time we are in the morning, okay? I know that this afternoon, I have a client of mine that sent me a very large document, 80-page document, that he wants my opinion on the whole document before he presents it to his team.
Lovely.
Okay. It's a sales document, and I really like the idea of it. So I spent 2 hours on it yesterday afternoon, and I know that the rest of today I am finishing that document so I can send it back to him with my observations. That's today. We are sitting here on the Thursday between Christmas and New Year. Tomorrow I have an external presentation. I'm doing a 2-day seminar in Poland, in Krakow, in the middle of January. Tomorrow I spend the whole day writing the content. Monday I am completing my next book, which I'm writing. Tuesday, I'm writing 2 books at the moment. Tuesday I'm completing the second book. Now, again, someone might be thinking, wow, that's kind of what happens if something happens. Well, if something happens, I'll deal with it. But it goes back to the plan. If nothing happens, I already know what I'm doing Monday, Tuesday.
You've got to operate on the basis
I work about a week
of uniform life, and if a meteor hits your house, then you're going to have to deal with that. But
exactly.
9 times out of 10,
it won't hit the house.
It won't hit the house, so you can plan ahead and carry on as such.
Yeah, my diary is planned for 12 months. It works for me, and I actually still use a physical diary. Now, some people on here will go, what? I still use a physical diary. It works for me. Usually the physical diary for the year after comes out in about September. So I have my whole year planned for the following year by the middle end of October, because things move, things change. I need dates from others. But by the end of October, I have the next 14 months planned with everything.
Can we just help everyone who's listening or watching who's currently going, my God, Phil Berg, you're a crazy individual. And I think what I'm going to say is correct. Some of your diary planning, has stuff that's very specific in it, but otherwise it's allocation of time.
Completely allocation of time. So, for example,
I don't know what I'm doing on it, like specifically, but I'm playing golf on that time, and then I work out the course and who with nearer.
Yeah, every Wednesday morning. In fact, I changed it now for next year, because I think, why am I doing it in the morning? As the weather gets better, I'll play in the afternoon. So on days like that, on Wednesdays, from about May, I think, may have been April, doesn't matter. But on Wednesdays now, it says AM consultancy. And I know that I will have 3 to 4 hours of consultancy, PM golf.
Yeah.
So I don't know which clients yet in the morning, and I don't know what time I'm playing golf and who with.
Yep.
But it's in the diary.
Allocated.
I know I have X amount of hours that I've allocated to helping people with sales or networking, etc. So that time is written in my diary, but at this moment, I don't know who it will be. I have clients obviously using me every month, but I actually work on
that
three.
might change or whatever.
I work on 3 months with them.
Yeah.
So basically, I can tell you my diaries, the clients are all entered into the end of March, but in January, we start entering April. In February, we start entering May. But you're absolutely, even Christmas shopping with Jackie,
Yeah.
even phoning my mum, which is a terrible story, but have you ever told you this one?
No.
Oh, so I would openly say, embarrassingly, that I should be a better son.
Oh, we should all be better sons.
Right. So I know I should phone my lovely mum more. I know. I happen to be mentoring a friend of mine's son, not on a business way. There's been some health issues in the family. I'm kind of looking after the son a bit. And one day I said to him, have you phoned your mum? And he said, yeah, we speak every Monday at 5. So I said, you speak every Monday at 5? He said, yeah. I said, well, that's it. And this guy runs 3 restaurants, so he's very busy. He said, yeah, I'm just so busy. He said, we have to plan it in. I thought, what a great idea. So I phoned my mum up thinking, this is a great idea. I said, Mum, Mondays at 5:30 works for me. I said, what would you be doing generally? She said, I don't know, why? I said, can we have a phone call at 5:30 every Monday? And I thought she'd be saying, oh, that would be lovely, darling. But she actually went, I'm not having a fixed phone call with my son every week.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah? But I said, well, then I won't be phoning you. And my logic was, Mum, you should be thinking this is brilliant. But she was looking at it like, I'm not having a business phone call with my son.
What does your mum call you? Phil?
Philip.
Philip.
Yeah.
Philip, you crazy. I don't know what I'll be doing. Why I want to book it with you? I want to be doing better things and talking to you.
It was more like she saw it and I could understand because, listen, what's important is another subject, what people hear rather than what we say. What she saw it as is I'm doing her a favour by squeezing her into my lifestyle. The reality is it's true. But instead of her thinking, well, that would be great, she saw it differently. But in fairness, I said, can we try it? And in fairness, I started speaking to my mum at 5:30 every Monday. It's literally entered in my diary. And you know what? We have lovely phone call conversations every week now, whereas before it would have been an ad hoc call. Any news? No, not really. Whereas now it's each week, it's like, yeah, I've done this week actually. And
because you know you've allowed the time.
It's been brilliant.
Yeah, there you go. So important takeaway, that almost made you sound like superhuman, which you are, but for people listening who don't do anything on diary management at the moment, is you can set the time for fitness, for family time, for holiday.
It might change.
That might change, but you have blocked it out. So nearer the time, when people are starting to allocate that time for specifics, you don't have to go, yeah, I do it. And then you don't have the family time or the fitness time. You've got it allocated. And then you can say, well, I'm out with the family on between 2 and 4, so I could do a Zoom call at 6.
I can choose. I have clients all over the world. I could be on at 6 o'clock in the morning with my clients in Asia. I could be on 9, 10 o'clock at night with my clients in Canada and America. But that's choice. I go back to choice.
Well, and obviously as well, if you set all this time out for wanting to do work, if a client cancels, you've now got free time.
Yeah. And I've always got things I can get on with. But I think this next sentence has always gone down well with people that hear it. If I put something in the diary and I can't do it, no problem. But if I don't put something in the diary, trying to find time to do it becomes a problem. So diary planning.
Yeah. Big, another topic, but big topic.
Yeah, very.
So Phil, listen, we've been on for 1 hour and 48 minutes. Unbelievable.
We didn't want to be more than an hour.
I know, but
Brilliant.
it's fine because if people are listening to the beautiful podcast, if people can listen on the go, stop it at an hour, pick it up again where they left off, and so forth. So I feel like I'd love to ask one last question, and then I'm going to do a little summary because I've made some notes of key takeaways for me.
Great.
Do you have any final thoughts or advice on goal setting for the new year? So anything you think you would have liked to have said that you didn't get out, or if it's been fluid and you just said everything, is there top 3 things that you say, look, if you put me on the spot, I had to give you top 3 things that if you're going to do goal setting for the new year, do A, B, C, and then work the rest out along the way?
As you say, put on the spot. So I'll drive home thinking, I could have said this or that. I would say the first thing is do it.
Take action.
Yeah, plan, do get into the habit of creating goals. 2, when you've created your goal, imagine you have it. Visualize you've got it. Visualize, what does it mean? Are you then working how you want? Is it the goal you really wanted? Because quite often I work with clients, and when we set the goal and then we start looking at actually we have it, it's not the goal we want. So set your goal, then say, is it the goal you want? So that you finalize that goal. Come backwards from the goal so that you've got your milestones on the journey. Celebrate the milestones. Imagine if you had 12 milestones and you didn't quite achieve your goal, but you had 11 rewards. Still be a great year.
Yeah. And when you're looking back, reviewing your year from before, you can go, I did this, I did this, I did it.
Exactly.
Aren't I successful?
Yeah.
So take action was one.
Plan the right goal and make sure you got it. 2, make sure you're creating your milestones along the way and review them. And then 3, make sure that whoever is involved in your life is involved in your goal.
Okay.
We tend to set goals individually, but whoever is involved in your life is involved in your final goal.
Lovely. Lovely, lovely, lovely. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Some of the takeaways I've had, because we've covered a lot of topics.
We have. I've loved it. Thank you.
I love the yes if, not no because. So having that positive mentality, that positive spin on opportunity.
Yes.
So that you're creating, what if I did this or that to get something, as opposed to no, because I can't, and that way then you're going to create opportunities.
Well, yes if. Yes if what? So how do we do that? Well, it's difficult because no. How do we do it? Well, we could do it like this. If, okay, what do we do then?
Yeah.
Sometimes you get to the end, you think, okay, it's not worth doing. But it's nice to live in a solution-based mindset rather than immediately putting obstacles up and just... You won't achieve anything.
This goes back to positive, negative mindsets, self-talk and so forth.
Yeah.
So that was a big one. I've got the 3-year, writing your 3-year out as if what was my year like in the 3rd year into the future. So you're saying, I had 5 amazing holidays. Yeah. I did this, I did that, and perhaps all those things you're going to write out would be on the basis of health, personal well-being, business and or family relationships. Yeah. So you can define that and then work backwards. That was strong.
Business will be the activity to achieve the goal. Okay. The important thing is here, you don't say this is what I want to do in the 3rd year. This is what I did.
This is what I did. This is what I had.
This is what I did.
So it's present tense, but writing it for the 3 years in advance.
This is what I did, and then you'll end up with, okay, so how do I do that then?
Which was powerful, because that's very, the affirmation of that in itself. Take action was a big one. Take action, because a lot of all of this is thinking time and but once you've done thinking, you've got it written, plan to take massive action, because nothing will happen without you actually doing something, physically doing something.
I do a lot of seminars throughout the year. I do a lot of international travel and training, and I always say to my audience, this doesn't finish the moment I stop talking. It finishes the moment that you've taken action after I've finished talking.
Exactly. And make the action a habit so that it becomes less arduous. It doesn't become, when am I going to fit it in? Yeah. Make it a habit, get it done, and then carry on doing that consistently, which is strong. Business decisions come after. That's fine. So make a life plan and work backwards from there. Perfect. I love the list. Stop doing, start doing, continue doing, which you can apply to those 4 realms of health, personal, business or family.
Maybe relate that to important and urgent, because that is an interesting one. Sometimes we think something is urgent when it's not, but it is important, and that will help you prioritize what to do and when to do it.
And that's good where you've got a support partner or a coach or something, because you can obviously talk through all of this with that person, help you refine it down. Diary planning is a big one, because obviously if you make the time, then you're going to get the time and do something with it. and always revert back to your why, which is a bit of the life plan, but that was perfect. That's where my big takeaways were.
Thank you.
Thank you. So listen, handshake across the table.
Been a privilege and an honour.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. It's amazing how time flies when you're diving into things like this.
Yep.
I'd love to thank everyone who has made it to the end here. We
Yes.
hope that you have taken away some nuggets. If you have the time and the inclination, it wouldn't hurt you if you didn't start out with a pad and pen in hand to listen again, or skip to the best bits where you can make a note of these good things that you want to take away. So the takeaways aren't just in your mind, but you've actually captured it and written it down. You got away with it. So perhaps do that as a suggestion. But I'd just love to thank everyone who's listened. Any comments you want to leave on the podcast forum, wherever it is being hosted on Spotify and so on and so forth, please feel free to do so. We're always happy to open a discussion. I will include Phil's contact information
Thank you.
in the notes underneath the podcast. If you want to talk to Phil further about how you can have a support network or an accountability partner or a mentor or something,
Very happy to speak to anyone. Very happy to
feels very much you're open to having just a conversation at the start.
I would have a 30-minute, no obligation, very casual, informal chat with anybody to see how we can help you. Even for 30 minutes, we'll try and make a difference. So, and can I ask, I mean, if anyone will be kind enough to maybe promote this on Facebook or LinkedIn, just do some sort of testimonial for you, because I think as a podcast host, you were absolutely amazing today.
Amazing.
And I've really enjoyed listening to you as well.
Oh, thank you.
So yeah, please, ladies and gentlemen, put a testimonial out for Andrew and Rock House, and help us get into more people's homes and lives. That would be great.
Thank you, Phil.
Pleasure.
Thank you, everybody. Wishing everyone a happy, healthy and successful 2023. We hope you've got massive value from this. And until next time, this is Andrew Shearer of Rock House, the Rock House Property Podcast. Wishing you an amazing day, week, night, whatever you're doing. Until next time.
Ditto.
Thank you for joining us. If you enjoyed the show and want to learn more about how you can complete your own extension, all whilst avoiding the common mistakes that can cost you time and money, then please hit that subscribe icon. Knowledge is power. If you have any questions about the show, or if you'd like specific questions answered, then please refer to the email address in the show notes below, and we'll be more than happy to answer them. For all things architecture and chartered surveying, www.rock-house.co.uk. Turning your development dreams into reality.